Spurs up, Carolina fans. This is Phil Harris once again here at the Ruckin Roosters Show. I have two very, very special guests this time around. We have an alumni here with us. His name is Carl Casper. We have his son as well, CJ. How the hell are you boys?
Couldn't be better, Phil.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm doing just fine.
Good, good, good. So glad y'all are able to join us this evening. Wanted to get right into it and talk about, what we're here tonight to discuss is CJ is a senior in high school. You're a former Carolina rugby player, Carl, yourself. Y'all are from Connecticut, recently visited Carolina on a recruiting trip. So I wanted to get into that a little bit later on, but I wanted to go back to Carl first here. What is your origin story with rugby? How did you get involved in rugby initially?
Sure. Well, I guess like a lot of kids, right? I played football in high school, and I went down to Carolina and spent a lot of time in the gym running, and met a guy at the gym in the weight room down in the Solblatt Rec Center.
Yep.
And, I guess it was the middle of my sophomore year. He said, "Why don't you ever think about playing rugby?" And I hadn't, but, I went out and that was that. And, I stayed with the team for the next couple of years and learned, right? I mean, it was not an easy game to learn, and it's, so did that. And it was a lot of fun and, met some great guys. And matter of fact, you're talking about going down for that visit. It happened to be, there was a tailgate and I went down and ran into three fellows that I used to play with back in the day. And so, it was nice to connect with them,
awesome.
after all these years.
Are you a D10 member or are you from that era or was that a little bit before or after then?
87.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yes. So probably like playing years were like 85, 86, 87.
Okay. Very good. What position did you play?
Hooker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, and I was telling, I saw Jeff Smolka down there and I reminded him of a story when I was learning how to play. He came up to my dorm room. I was living in Laborde at the time. It's gone. It's a pile of rubble or there's some beautiful building. But he set me up between the two chairs in the dorm room and taught me how to strike.
Nice.
So reminded him of that story. And I can't tell if you remember or not, but it certainly resonated with me because, that's the kind of team it was, right? Didn't know me from Adam. Hey, let's go spend some time and let's learn how to hook the ball. And appreciated it.
Smoke is one of our favorites on this show, man. Like what an amazing contributor to Gamecock rugby still to this day. He puts his money where his mouth is and is a great coach. Even back then he was coaching you how to play the position and how to do it. So that's really cool.
Yeah. And I thanked him when I had the opportunity. I mean, the scholarship work he's doing is tremendous.
It's incredible. It's incredible stuff for sure. We wish we had we wish we could clone him, to get a couple more guys just like him involved for sure. CJ, when did you start playing rugby and what position do you play now?
I started playing rugby when I was about 6. When I started playing, he had me out and then my dad coached me. So he put me out in the centers. But now I play outside center, flanker, lock, and recently 8-man for my club since we're lacking 8-man.
Incredible. A utility player. You can play everywhere, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fun.
That's awesome. That's great stuff. So you've coached him up essentially, Carl, since he was young.
Yeah, I mean, when I got out of college, I did what a lot of people. I went to work, and but I missed rugby, and we had a chance to move to Connecticut for work, and didn't know anybody, so I joined the club, and I joined New Haven, and played for about 10 years there through some really great seasons, and then the kids came, and I was looking for something to do. I dragged them down to a flag rugby practice, and like rugby, it's a small community. I saw this guy and I'm like, oh boy, he's running the show here. And he looked at me and he said, you ever think of coaching? And that was that was 11 years ago. So I've been coaching him and a number of boys. We've had a good core of guys up through, for the last 10, 11 years. We actually had 6 kids this year go off to play in college, UConn, URI.
Wow.
University of Southern Connecticut. I mean, a number of places. So, we watch these kids come up from little 6-year-old kids all the way to, and so it's been a great ride.
That's
So I
awesome.
have one more year coach, and I don't coach him. Miss Nate, I let my friends coach him.
Okay.
Because I can't tell him anything. But he's very coachable. He just doesn't listen to me.
There you go. There you go. So let's talk about, Carl, as you're alluding to, you are coaching right now. You're the high school boys coach for Mid-State Rugby there in Connecticut. Tell us about the organization itself and also that magical run this year with claiming the state title.
Yeah. So, in Connecticut, there are 18 teams divided between Division I and Division II. There are 10 in Division II. Some of the big schools actually, Coach Roberts has good tentacles into Staples, other places, right?
Yep.
And so those are D1 schools are typically high school teams tied to the high school. I mean, Fairfield Prep, for example, has 120 kids coming out.
Incredible.
And so they have a Froshmore team, they have a JV, they have a varsity team, and there are a number of schools like that, Greenwich, Staples, certainly. And then there's the club teams, some smaller high schools, and then we draw from a region. I think I had kids from 11 or 12 different high schools on my team last season.
Wow.
So yeah, we had a really solid team. Our numbers tend to be anywhere between 25 and 30 kids, and we had the two toughest teams in the division we played and we lost to during the regular season. But we met them again in the semifinals. We met West Hartford, always a stiff team, and we beat them. And then we went on to play Fairfield for the D2 state championship, and they had beat us, I think, 41-19 in the regular season, and we beat them 18-12.
Gotcha.
So we were victorious. It was nice. And the D1 team that won was Fairfield Prep, and my friend John Broker, the guy who introduced me to rugby in New Haven, the first person I called when I moved here.
Wow.
He helps coach that team. So it was a pretty big day for
How about that? Yeah.
For the local boys.
Very cool connections there for sure. And I've been in Connecticut recruiting for Carolina 2 years ago, rather, I should say. I was at Staples High School with Coach Roberts, seeing all the local talent in the New England area, around that Connecticut area. I'd love for a pipeline to develop. I know we've got the Mid-Atlantic kind of on lockdown, but that pipeline from New England down to South Carolina would be fantastic as well. I know that there's some Mystic guys that have played with Mystic growing up, have made their way down to Carolina. So that's something that I really hope is fostered going forward with that pipeline from Connecticut and the New England area.
Yeah, I mean, I've done my best. I've steered a few folks his way. I don't think anybody's landed, but I'm trying, because if I see a player that's solid and they're interested at all in South Carolina, I've made that connection. And I haven't had a home run yet, but we're working on it.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of interested in South Carolina, CJ, let's talk about, you've been a part of the Junior Jacks, which, for people that don't know, I also do a podcast for the Free Jacks organization there as like a fan podcast. And the Free Jacks have done really, really great stuff with youth rugby and developing the pathway from youth to college, then to, the academy system that they're developing. So talk about, your Free Jacks Academy experience that you've had so far with the Free Jacks organization, CJ.
So far, it's been really great. Nothing to complain about, incredible coaching. They all really focus on each individual player. They try and really get to know you as a player and understand your skill set and what you need to improve on. And the funny story was that they had asked me one day if I could play lock, and not that they need to know this, but I'd never played lock before in my life. And I just told them, sure. They put me in, they taught me how to play it. It took me about a week. And since it's been a great experience with them so far. And I'm actually going back on Sunday for sevens, for New York Sevens. So
awesome. Yes. So I was talking to Wheels, which is Thomas Grant, about the upcoming sevens tournament down there in New York. Super excited about that. That's the day before my birthday. So he's trying to get me to come down there to hang out with you guys and spend a little time there in the New York area. But we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll go down there. Maybe I won't. But yeah, man, this is super, super cool. I love that connection with, like local rugby and the Free Jacks being a part of that. And hopefully, we can steer you down to South Carolina. No decision made yet on that, but we'll talk about that here shortly. But Carl, I wanted to throw it back to you. Tell us about your playing days at Carolina. You've already talked about what years, you talked about the position, but just tell us your overall feeling about when you think back about your time at Carolina. What was that like?
It was interesting, right? Because it was nowhere near as organized as it
Mhm.
is today.
Mhm.
Coach Roberts has done a fantastic job of, building a real structure around the club, right? I mean,
Mhm.
look at the foundation that he's created, the donations that are flowing in.
Yep.
I just got my annual report the other day. I mean, it's great, and it really raises the level of the club. But when I was there, it was loose. We were kind of talking about that. Thursday night after practice, you're figuring out who can get a ride with who to go to Virginia
Right.
Tech.
Yep.
What car can I jump and where we sleep? And it was just, it was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
It was, you're a bit of a road warrior. It wasn't, somebody just gave, and I don't know the name, Phil, maybe you do. One of the parents donated $30,000 for
Yep.
transportation, right? Fantastic,
Incredible.
right?
Yep.
Awesome. I mean, we didn't, we were sleeping on the floor in fraternity houses. It was not,
Right.
it was not the $30,000 bus and hotel rooms. But the guys, were a pretty tight group of people. Um,
Yep.
we played hard, and that's one thing about rugby in general. It builds character, it attracts characters, and
100%.
there certainly were a lot of characters there. And there's a lot of sports where you can get sort of that fraternal feeling, but rugby is different. I mean, when you're sweating and bleeding with these guys and working hard, really hard, harder than you probably ever work in most sports, you build a bond. And it was interesting to talk to those fellows down there because they're still in touch with a lot of the guys on those teams. I
Yes.
moved back to New Jersey, and but I've created that same environment. Chris will tell you, those people I met with New Haven, I mean, 30 years later, I'm still hanging around with them. I've been to their weddings. I've been to their second weddings. I've
Right.
seen their kids born, I mean, it is, the feeling that I got, and that's part of the reason why I pursued it when I finally had some breathing room after
Mhm.
I'd sort of gotten established in my career, was go back because,
Yeah.
that's something I really missed. And I loved playing down there. And, the people, I mean, Philo Rockefeller walked up to me and I hadn't seen him, and he looked at me and he goes, "I recognized you right away," and it was, and Mark was there, and
Yep.
so it was really good to catch up with those guys. But yeah, you never, after all these years, just we started telling stories and we're reminding each other of names and things that
Mhm.
happened, and you're just laughing and you fall right back into it.
100%. Like I always, when grew up, I found rugby before college, which I was very, very fortunate to do that. But I always told people that I showed the game to before they went to college, like just join your club rugby team wherever you end up going. I had some kids that I played with, when I was younger, go to App State or NC
Yeah,
State. I
we
told
used to
them
play
just
them. Yep.
play the rugby team or join the rugby team, and you're going to have 14 friends automatically. College is kind of a scary environment, especially when you're coming in as a freshman. Probably don't know a lot of people. It's away from your home. So, joining the rugby club is an instant bond that is created between you and the guys that you're teammates with, because you're going through hell to a certain extent in
Yep.
practices and games. You're going to create that friendly bond, that brotherhood. And I did want to give a shout out to the parents that gave, as you were talking about, that $30,000 to make sure that it's not a very Spartan, trips to these away trips like it used to be back in my day, in your day, Carl, of course, when we were, like getting carpool together and we were all, heading up to UNC or whatever it was going to be. There's traveling in style now, and that's because of Bill and Cindy McKernan, who have donated that money to
Thank
do that,
you.
which is an incredible, incredible gesture. Yeah, thank you to them for sure.
Yeah, and you were touching on the, a little bit of the culture,
Yeah.
and one of the things that I really liked about the visit that we had was, we went down that tailgate, and Coach Roberts came up and took Chris over and introduced him to the boys, and he
Mhm.
disappeared for a good, hour. Um,
Nice. Nice.
and yeah, that speaks. We went to the Georgia game, we watched them, pound Georgia into the ground, which was very fulfilling.
Yep.
But you look on that sideline, and there's 60 or 15 kids out on the pitch, and
Mhm.
here's the rest of the guys, and they're just cheering, and the B side is out there and they're cheering. I mean,
Yep.
that is a group,
They're
that is,
together. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. It's a togetherness for sure that has been built up over time. And John Roberts has a huge part to play in all of that because of the culture that's been created with that team. so that, you can really tell that they care about each other. It is a one team type of mentality for sure. And yeah, I watched that game from home on YouTube, watching them beat Georgia. That was very satisfying to see for sure. Anytime you shut out your rival like that, it's pretty cool to see for sure. But CJ, I wanted to throw it back to you. You've recently toured Carolina with your family. Carl was talking about it a moment ago. What impressed you the most about the university?
Well, to be honest with you, Coach Roberts took us to that your gym or your physical whatever
Yes.
you want to call it, right?
Yep.
And it was just massive. It was full of like rock wall, 2 pools.
Yep.
It had everything in it. It was an amazing workout facility. Nothing I've seen before. Is pretty amazing. I really liked that aspect of the school. It was really great part of it.
Yeah, for sure. That building there. Is it the Strom Thurmond building still? I
think it
want to
might
say
be.
it is. Yeah, that was around in my day, and you used to. I don't know if this is still the case, but you would have to put your finger it's like a fingerprint to get in. They would take your fingerprint, and so you could get in through the door. I don't know if they still do that or not, the biometrics or whatever. But that was always very, very impressive to see.
Yeah, I took him to the horseshoe, but it was lost on him.
Let me tell you, I mean, I don't know. Like, we had Gavin Bennett, who was a very, very famous personality within Carolina Rugby, graduated last year, I believe it was. He had never been to the horseshoe, and he's been there for 4 years. And I was like, how is that even possible, man? Like, come on. Yeah, the horseshoe is what made me fall in love with Carolina, because the campus is just so beautiful, especially that part of it for sure. But I don't know. I guess it's not for everybody, which kind of blows my mind. But it is what it is.
I played a lot of ultimate frisbee on that horseshoe.
Yeah, absolutely. How can you not, man? It's beautiful. But other colleges and rugby programs that you're considering, CJ, like what other programs are out there that have your attention?
Right now, last week I actually just visited Siena College up in New York.
Okay.
Really good program. I like to see their program.
Mm-hmm.
It's really expanded pretty well over the past few years. I mean, recently they just marked the D1 after their small college championship. Remarkable for them.
Oh, okay.
I'm also looking at Babson.
Okay.
Go down to visit them next week. That should be an interesting visit. And then
Mm-hmm.
I know, unfortunately, you guys lost to Tennessee, but that's another one on my list.
Okay. Yikes.
Just to look around.
Yep.
Penn State is one that we're kind of looking at. Not too much communication just yet, but there's plenty of time still.
Sure.
And that's just about it. Yeah.
Penn State has a great women's program. I'm not sure about the men. I'm sure that they are pretty good there. But I was just thinking, like, man, Carl, wouldn't it be awful that you would have to wear orange with CJ going down there to Tennessee?
I taught him how to sing Rocky Top, so he's ready to go.
Uh-oh. Let me tell you, man, like they're a great program. They really, really are. They even had a player, I want to say not this past draft, but the one prior to that in MLR, got drafted into MLR, which is pretty incredible for a one AA program like Carolina is. So, I mean, it's a testament to those guys down there. They know what they're doing, and they're always a constant powerhouse within the conference that we play in. But that orange sure is ugly for sure. Just wanted to ask you, what's your impressions of Coach Roberts, CJ?
He's a really remarkable guy. He's real nice. He was real great to us. He talked to me and my father for about, 3 hours maybe on the day we came to tour. We went to lunch with him. We talked just rugby basically the entire time. It was a great experience being with him. And like my dad said, when we went to the tailgate, he showed me to the players. And he trusted them to take care of me, and they did. So he's got a lot of faith in his players. He's got a lot of faith in his program, and he seems like a really remarkable coach. So it would be great to have him coaching me next year, but see what happens.
We'll see what happens for sure. I'm a big fan of John Roberts. I beat the drum for him all the time. I think he's one of those type of guys that can turn around a program, and it's, Carolina is living proof of that. Prior to that, Furman winning multiple national championships over the years. So yeah, this thing is just getting started. I keep telling people that, like, we've seen successes so far with his leadership as coach of Carolina, but I think we're just at the beginning stages of that for sure.
Yeah,
Final question. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I followed the club for a long time after, once the internet came around, right? Because, what I've seen over the last few years, and I knew Mark Morris a little because I tried to feed him some players too. But, the work he's done and building that donation base and I'll let you talk in a second, Phil, but anybody that's watching this, that's an alumni, a friend of rugby, a fan of rugby, sign up. drop $25 a month.
Yes.
It is just so, it doesn't have to be a big donation, but it's easy. You go to the website, you fill out the form, you click the button, it comes out of your bank. You'd spend
It's easy.
$25
Yep.
on coffee,
Mhm.
and this goes to really, something that, rugby's given me so much, and I'm sure it's given a lot of you many, many things as well. And
Mhm.
it's a small amount to sacrifice to give somebody else that opportunity. I just wanted to squeeze that in because you know, it's
I
important.
appreciate it. Yeah, John Roberts always wants me to talk about the With You campaign of raising money for the program, so I appreciate you doing that in this episode for me there. But yeah, I mean, just look at what has been built so far, and just think of what we can do in the future if if the people out there that haven't donated yet just do a monthly donation of $25. Like you're saying, easy. And if all of us did that, there's over 1,000 of us that have played with Carolina. I mean, we'd be one of the top programs in the country, right? So, I mean, it just can't be well wishes and people high fiving it. It takes money to get this thing going. So, yeah, the more money, the better. And, to keep John Roberts around with his salary and stuff like that, it's going to continue to get better and better. So, yeah, I challenge everybody out there that's watching this. If you're an alumni Carolina, a supporter, a parent, make sure that you're donating monthly to the program to get this ball rolling as it is. So, I wanted to ask you, from a parent's perspective, Carl, what are you looking for your son's university and rugby program?
Yeah, so that's a question Chris and I have talked a lot about, and his mom, right? But
Hmm.
first thing is academics, right? You need to find a place that's grounded, good academics, has the programs that you're interested in, and then once you find that, what's the best rugby club? So the next tier
Right.
down is the rugby club, and
Hmm.
we're looking for, obviously Carolina has great academics, as do the other schools he's looking at. But
Yep.
then, you want a rugby club that has the right culture, right?
Sure.
And there are a lot of clubs, and thanks to the NCR now, right? There's all this visibility of all these programs,
Hmm.
and they're recruiting from overseas, and they're some of these coaches are recruiting fiends, but they're pulling in. Is that what you want, right? I mean, you can be on a great club, you could be on a
Hmm.
team that wins every game, but if there's no culture,
Right.
if you're not happy being there, um, is it really worth it? And so,
Right.
that's really important to us, and that's part of the reason why we took the flight down to South Carolina, and we went to Siena, and we're going to Babson, and maybe
Hmm.
we'll go to Penn State, and I'm not going to Tennessee, but
I
I
hear you.
mean, we want to make sure that academics we can figure for, but it's
Right.
that culture of the club, and we saw it in spades down in Carolina.
I love to hear it, man. I really, really do. I'm super excited for CJ to make that decision because, like, it's a big, big decision, right? And ultimately, whoever he chooses, whatever university he decides to go to, it's awesome that he's going to be able to play rugby there, which is very, very awesome. That he's been playing since he was 6 years old. That's awesome, and I'm sure you guys are super excited about that. I'm hoping it's Carolina, obviously, continue that legacy of the Caspers down there, but. Yeah, just Carolina plays Clemson, some small
Tomorrow.
university,
Yeah.
yeah, in the upstate there. It's tomorrow, as a matter of fact, as you're saying. Any encouraging words, Carl? I mean, you're a coach of young men in rugby. Like, what would you say to the Carolina rugby players as they head up there?
I think that the most important thing is to trust your abilities, right? And trust
Hmm.
yourself, and don't lose your composure. I think we saw Georgia lose their composure, and it cost them, right?
Right.
Play the game. South Carolina. I was really impressed with the quality of the play and the players that they had. Chris was talking about, geez, I had fast ball, Dad. Look how, yeah, everybody was in the right spot all the time. They
Hmm.
rucked, right? They mauled. They did what they had. Didn't lose a lot of ball. So stick to those fundamentals, play your position, don't get out of your head, right? And
Hmm.
just play hard, and be there for each other, back each other up. People make mistakes all the time, right?
Yep.
Not everybody's perfect. Pro basketball players miss shots. You're going to make a mistake. Just
Yep.
be like, I like to use a lot of Ted Lasso in my coaching.
Nice.
So I'm like, be like a goldfish, 10 seconds and move on.
Love it.
And let's keep going. And I think, if everybody plays the game that they're capable of, that we saw them play in Georgia,
Hmm.
Clemson doesn't have a chance.
I love to hear it, man, for sure. I mean, it's a big rivalry game. Carolina got the better of them last year. That's the first time that's happened in a long, long time. So hopefully we can make it two in a row. CJ, any final thoughts that you wanted to throw in here for us?
Uh, Not really. I mean, I really like South Carolina as a program. I think it's got a really great future ahead of it, and terrible day to wear orange, I guess. So.
Love to hear it, man, for sure. So with that being said, Carl and I, we know the Spurs up. We're going to say that in 3, 2, 1. Spurs
Spurs
up,
up.
baby. Woo! Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you very much.